U.S. State Department has begun issuing over 1,350 termination notices, marking the start of a sweeping reorganization under Secretary of State Marco Rubio, one of the most dramatic shakeups in the history of America's diplomatic corps. The move comes just days after the Supreme Court lifted a legal block on the Trump administration's plan to carry out mass layoffs across federal agencies, a plan that could ultimately affect hundreds of thousands of government workers. According to internal emails, more than 1,100 civil service and 246 foreign service employees in domestic roles will be let go. Another 1,600 have already left through a voluntary scheme. Critics, including Democratic senators and the American Foreign Service Association, have slammed the move, calling it a blow to U.S. diplomacy amid global instability. The administration maintains that the reduction is about realignment and not politics. Let's listen in to some stakeholders.
It is very sad. All of my staff was riffed today. And you run the gamut between folks that are having their first child to folks that are the single income in their household, and now that is gone. And folks that were doing good work for the citizens of the United States.
The department would disagree with the need for reform, but arbitrarily laying off people like me and others, irrespective of their performance, is not the right way to do it. Like others impacted by these cuts, I have 2 young kids at home who depend on my salary.
We're once again joined by Jim Rice to discuss this update from the United States. Jim, layoffs have been a huge element in Trump's administration. This, however, comes after a Supreme Court ruling. Do unions or do Congress now have any remaining tools to slow these layoffs? Or are they a final nail in the coffin for all these people affected?
Thanks for that question, Thomas. I don't think that they do. And even if there were, and I'm sure, of course, there would be legislative means. However, at this point, the Republican Party controls the both houses of Congress, and the Republican Party has basically abdicated all of their authority under the Constitution to Trump. So that's the way it is. But what Trump has done here is essentially been promised in his blueprint called Project 2025. And it's quite clear that they're rolling out Project 2025, which is, in a wider sense, right? What they're doing is they're axing all of these civil service jobs that do really good work in embassies and the foreign service. And, as you know, I live in the Philippines, and as an overseas national, we depend upon the State Department, and we depend upon the U.S. Embassy in Manila and other cities to carry out services for Americans overseas. So this is a terrible decision, but essentially what Trump is doing is he's trying to eliminate what has essentially been the civil service and to replace it with either incompetence or loyalists to himself.
Jim, we've never really seen any unprecedented action in regards to this in recent times, in regards to mass layoffs of government workers. Why is this such a popular policy in the Trump administration? And what can we expect from the future of the U.S. government in regard to this?
Again, those are excellent questions. I just go back to one of the earliest actions that the Trump regime, I'm going to call it, carried out, which is the destruction of USAID, which was done under Trump's authority by Elon Musk back in January of 2025. And this decision to destroy or to dismantle USAID has been responsible for thousands of deaths and the waste of tons and tons of U.S. aid that's basically rotting away in warehouses, that it's available to be distributed to needy people all over the world. he's also, tearing up all of these excellent programs that's given the U.S. just so much value in terms of soft power overseas. In terms of why is he doing this, I can only guess, but it seems that Trump only, has a very short term and limited view. In fact, I really couldn't say why they're doing this. It's inconceivable why anyone would do such a thing.
Jim, what message do you think that these layoffs send to America's allies and adversaries at this time of global uncertainty?
Again, thanks for that follow-up. I really appreciate that chance to address this. One of the things that they did was to dismantle the Voice of America, which broadcasts to totalitarian countries such as places like Tibet and Xinjiang in China, and other places, and Myanmar, where people depend upon the U.S. to get unbiased news. Why is he doing this? I really believe that in a sense what Trump is trying to do is just dismantle U.S. soft power abroad, and it's to the advantage of America's adversaries and enemies, and surely to the disadvantage of the United States.
Jim, some people say America is the leader of the free world. However, these terminations to US aid and certain foreign consulates and embassies, some would say this contradicts this. How might this reshaping align with Secretary of State Marco Rubio's broader foreign policy goals?
It's hard to say. You can go back to what the Trump regime has done in the Ukraine war in terms of this on again and off again suspension and weakening of the U.S. Support for Ukraine, which is in an embattled situation, fighting off Russia, which is an aggressor. So as to what other adversaries, for example, in the Indo-Pacific are thinking, obviously this is weakening America's position, weakening America's role, and basically removing the United States as being the so-called leader of the free world.
Yes, and do you think these layoffs for the future, do you think this could they could lead to a loss of institutional memory within the State Department?
Absolutely. Again, if eventually, of course, Trump will be out of office, he won't be in office forever, and eventually there'll be a new president. But the damage that has been done right now, that the Trump regime is carrying out, is definitely going to have a memory, and is definitely going to take decades for these institutions to be able to repair themselves, and it's really a crisis, I believe.
Jim Rice, thank you very much for joining us on